Hey everyone, I'm Brent Barnett and welcome back to Brent's Hang. I've got a really cool show today. Really cool show. I was at LAX and I bumped into Romaine, who's the drummer for Enrique Iglesias and the Steve Morse band, and also Nena. And I kidnapped this dude. I straight up just hit him right over the head and tossed him in the back of my truck. So now we're at a studio here in North Hollywood and we're talking drums, we're talking racks, we're talking stands, and we're talking Gibraltar and how it works with his touring with Enrique and all the other acts that he does. And he's also going to tell us a little bit about what being an MD is like. So what was it that kind of turned you on to using Gibraltar? Why did you choose Gibraltar?
Initially, it was I really felt like I needed a rack. My first big gig was, well, aside from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, but with the Steve Morse band. And I was actually on tour at the time with Blood, Sweat, and Tears when I got the gig, and this is before the internet and stuff like that. But I was in Australia, and I was trying to get a drum endorsement for the Steve Morse tour, but those were the days where you had to mail a huge bio in with all this information, which I wasn't able to do from Australia. So basically, without naming any names, I signed with a drum company that had horrible hardware. And when we started touring with Steve Morse, we used a lot of different drum techs until we found the right guy. But basically, my stuff was falling all over the place. Pretty hard hitting gig and a large kit, so the stuff was sliding and moving, and it's enough just to play that music without stuff moving around. So
now let me interrupt you for a second. Like when you say large kit, like what are we talking about as far as sizes and number of cymbals that you used?
I started with 2 kick drums for Steve's gig because there's a lot of double bass drum in there, and eventually moved to a single. But I had 10, 12, 13 racks, 14 and 16 floors. An array of cymbals. I don't recall how many, 10 or 12 cymbals. I've always been triggering electronics, so I had at the time, I think Simmons, no, I had S900 samplers in a rack, but I had other pads, and just to use traditional tripod stands, especially when the hardware wasn't up to par. It just got incredibly frustrating, even if you have a carpet that's marked, and so things would be moving all over the place, especially when the velocity of the playing got heavy. So I contacted the people at Gibraltar, and I felt like having this rack was something that would kind of make the drum set almost idiot-proof to set up once it's used with the memory locks. And I've always liked to work with gears and kind of a gearhead myself, so all this stuff kind of made sense to me of how it works. And the other thing that I loved about it, and I still love about it, is the reason I still use racks on some gigs, is first of all, I don't really like building a square and then building your drum set around a square rack. To me, doesn't look that sexy, and it just takes away from the look of the drums. But right from the get-go, Gibraltar had pipe cutters and things where you could completely customize your rack for your kit. So I don't even know how many different racks where I had the racks actually behind the drums, so you didn't see the rack, only on the sides, which looked cool. And I've also had more of the standard just square rack, and now through your help, we've been using curb bars and stuff with the Enrique Iglesias tour. And so it's for the most part, to keep the drums contained and then also be able to customize it in a creative way on top of it. So
you mentioned you've had like a number of different racks, and you're familiar with, you like working the technical side of things. Have you designed pretty much most of all your rack setups, or have you had somebody that you worked with that's helped you with it, or how did that work?
I started off doing it myself. Again, back in 90, the racks were just kind of coming out. There were some other companies that were making it, but Gibraltar was the only one that I was aware of that you could customize, and using the pipe cutters, which is basically a plumber's tool. But when you look at the intricate setups, and it would be great if this kind of came over there, and just seeing all the parts that Gibraltar has to offer, it gives you so much, a lot of flexibility in the setup. So,
dude, fan, thanks again for coming out, dude.
You got it, man.
It's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
no problem.
Long overdue.
I know.